I cannot believe it is already 2024. With it being a new year, maybe you're wanting to find an easy side hustle that can give your family a vacation, or maybe you're wanting to put extra money away to buy a house later this year. Whatever the reason is for wanting to start a side hustle, you are in the right place because furniture flipping can be very straightforward and oftentimes rewards you very highly for very little work. What I love most about furniture flipping is that if you do it right, you can even make it a full-time job. This is amazing for stay-at-home moms or someone really wanting to get out of the corporate 9 to 5. If you find this video helpful, please consider giving this video a like and subscribe if you aren't already, as it really helps my channel grow. I am on the road to hitting my first 10,000 subscribers, which is definitely the hardest milestone for a small YouTuber like me, and I can't do it without you guys. So thank you guys in advance. Now let's go ahead and get started. I found this 5-drawer dresser on the side of the road ready for the dump. Honestly, I don't know why it was on the curb because it's pretty functional and nothing's wrong with it other than it just looks outdated and it's missing some hardware. These are my favorite pieces to flip though, because it takes very little time and very little money to put in, and you can make them look so beautiful and they will fit into any modern style home. Now, in addition to some of the hardware missing, some of it is also broken. So we are going to start this makeover off by taking off the hardware. If you are a beginner just wanting to start furniture flipping and haven't done it before, you do not need all the fancy tools to get it done. Throughout this video, I'm going to try my best to share cheaper alternatives and make it possible for someone who doesn't really have a lot of money up front to get this side hustle started, because that was definitely me. Right off the bat, taking off the hardware, you do not need an expensive drill. In fact, I have a drill and I rarely use it most of the time. A lot of hardware can just come off easily by hand because it's already loose, and when it can't, I simply just use a screwdriver. After all of the hardware is off and the drawers have been pulled out, at that point, I will start the cleaning process. A lot of the time, these dressers are very dusty and dirty, and you definitely don't want anything on the surface when you go to paint or refinish. When I'm cleaning, I just like to use some rags and, of all things, Dawn dish soap. What's great about it is it is not expensive, and most people already have it in their homes anyways. It is really good at cutting down any grease and grime and dust, you name it, and Dawn dish soap most of the time can tackle it. When cleaning, make sure that you are not only getting the body of the dresser, but also the drawers themselves. It also doesn't hurt to take the extra time to clean the inside of the dresser because it probably hasn't been done since it was bought originally in store. And if you are selling these pieces, you want them to look nice throughout. After you've cleaned all the surfaces down, just make sure to go back with regular warm water, no Dawn dish soap, and just rinse it all off. The one thing about Dawn dish soap is that it can leave some soap residue, and that will show up in the paint, so make sure you get that all off. Now from this point, I would start filling in all of the hardware holes, and this is very different for each project. Most of the time, I already have an idea of what hardware I am going to be exchanging it with, and I almost always change out the hardware. Most of the time, that means I'll have to fill in the old hardware holes. But for this project, I got pretty lucky because the new hardware that I'm picking is actually going to cover the existing holes. When this happens, I like to leave the existing holes because then it gives the customer options. And plus, you'll never see it because it's underneath the new hardware, and unless you're ducking your head under and looking, you just won't see it. However, if you've never filled in hardware holes and don't know the process, I have plenty of videos showing you how to do it, and I will link one above for you to watch. Typically, I'd be waiting a couple hours for that to dry so that I could go back and sand, but because we didn't use any for this project, the only sanding that we will need to do is a scuff sand. I typically use my circular sander. However, for the sake of this video, I am just going to use a square sheet of sandpaper to show you guys that you don't need these more expensive tools. One thing that I do definitely recommend you getting is a respirator though. It is so important to protect your lungs. You're going to see me being bad here and not using the respirator, but seriously, don't watch what I'm doing, but instead listen to what I am saying. Hand sanding won't kick up too much dust, which is why I went without it, but really I should have had it. I should have just had one on. Although So as I have flipped more and more pieces, I have bought systems that have allowed me to keep the respirator off because those tools will just suck up all of the dust right away, and it doesn't really affect my lungs at all. That is something that you can look forward to down the road, but if you're just getting started out, a respirator is not that bad to use. I think this respirator I got for around $30, and you do have to change out the filters every so often, which is another expense, but I change my filters maybe 3 times a year, so it's not too bad. If you're not familiar with what a scuff sand is, basically you're just trying to roughen up the surface and put some minor scratches in so that the paint can adhere and attach and grab onto the surface better and for a longer period of time. A lot of this is dust, but you can also see that it is getting pretty scratched up, which can look a little bit scary in the beginning, but I promise you this is exactly what these pieces need. This process will take a little bit longer if you are hand sanding it like I did here rather than using a sander, but even hand sanding, this process only took me about 10 to 15 minutes. It's pretty straightforward, really easy, and super quick. If I were using my sander, it probably wouldn't have taken me more than 5 minutes. Once you're done, it is 100% necessary to go back and wipe all the surfaces free of dust that the hand sanding had kicked up. This is actually a very satisfying part of the process when it comes to flipping furniture, and it's also the last It can really save you a lot of money. This gallon will last me probably 12 projects, which means I'm spending less than $1 per project. For this dresser, I decided to go with this beautiful dark green color. If you're not new to my channel, then you would know that I mostly stick to neutrals. However, I am a huge sucker for these darker greens. Now, as far as application goes, I like to switch between a roller and a paintbrush. I find rolling is the most efficient. However, the roller doesn't reach all spots, so that's when I like to take the paintbrush and cover what the roller can't. A lot of people also like to spray their pieces. That is not something that I do on my channel though, but there are a lot of really good channels out there if you are interested in that. It took me about 20 minutes to get the first coat on the body of the dresser, and then an additional 5 minutes to get the first coat on all of the drawer fronts. What's really nice about these darker colors is that you typically don't need as many coats as if you were going to do a lighter color like white. White typically needs about 4 coats, and sometimes that's after a white primer. I've got the heater on in the garage like I do for all projects in the winter since I live in a cold state. It took about 2 hours for the paint to fully dry, and then I moved on to the second coat. I only needed 2 coats for this dresser, which is really good. One thing that I do like to do is I lightly do a little bit of a scratch test, and that'll determine if I need a top coat or not. This paint did hold up really well, so I decided against it. I did go ahead and add new hardware off camera so that there would be some element of surprise for you guys. I will have it linked in my description box down below, along with most other products if you guys are interested. Now at this point, we are nearing the end result here, so if you guys could please like this video and subscribe. Also comment down below what you think of the hardware when you see it, and let's go ahead and get into the final reveal.
easy like no